The professor spoke with certainty, listing extinct threats as history. The deadliest species, he said calmly, is long gone. A human girl at the back slowly raised her hand. The room sighed in boredom until she spoke 5 quiet words that changed the lecture forever. It's called Earth, sir. The classification era are there. Gareth stood before the crystalline display wall, her 4 hands moving in practiced gestures as holographic images materialized across the lecture hall. The Xanthari professor had taught xenobiology for 6 decades, and her reputation for meticulous research was unmatched across the Galactic University network. Today we examine the predator paradox, she announced, her voice carrying through the amphitheater without technological assistance. Every spacefaring civilization arose from prey species. Every single one. This is not coincidence. It is evolutionary law. 300 students from 40 different worlds listened intently. Most were taking notes through neural interfaces. A few used old-fashioned data tablets. One particularly traditional Morphean was actually writing on synthetic paper. Virith advanced the display. A creature appeared, resembling a massive insectoid with razor-sharp limbs and eyes that seemed to track movement, even in a static image. The Kresh dominators of Epsilon 7. For 20 million years, they hunted every warm-blooded creature on their planet. Intelligence emerged in the Epsilon prey species as a survival mechanism. Fear drove innovation. She gestured again. A serpentine horror materialized, all coiled muscle and venomous fangs. The Night Stalkers of Primus 4, ambush predators with thermal vision and paralyzing toxins. The Primian people developed agriculture underground, built their first cities in darkness, invented artificial light before they invented the wheel, all to escape these creatures. A Delphinian student raised a tentacle-like appendage. Professor, what about species that evolved without apex predators? None exist, Virith replied flatly. Intelligence requires pressure. Comfort breeds complacency. Every species that reached the stars did so because something was hunting them. Their ancestors were prey, and that terror shaped their psychology. It taught them cooperation, planning, abstract thought. She paused, letting that sink in. The lecture hall was silent except for the soft hum of environmental systems. This brings us to the greatest mystery in xenobiological archives. Virath's tone shifted, becoming almost reverent. 2,000 years ago, coalition survey teams discovered evidence of a predator species so efficient, so perfectly adapted for killing, that all records were sealed. The planet designation was erased, the star system quarantined. Only fragments remain in classified databases. A Thorian student clicked his mandibles nervously. What made them so dangerous? Everything. Virith pulled up a partial file, heavily redacted. What we know comes from archaeological surveys and encrypted warnings. The species was bipedal, used tools, hunted in coordinated packs. But here's what made them unique. They hunted without biological necessity. Confused murmurs rippled through the audience. All predators hunt for food, Virith continued. Even the most dangerous species we've cataloged kill to eat, to defend territory, to protect the offspring. This species hunted for psychological gratification. They killed for entertainment. They developed entire cultural practices around recreational hunting. A crystalline scholar near the front shimmered with distress. That's pathological. Precisely. The leading theory suggests they destroyed themselves through internal conflict. A species that weaponized violence for pleasure would inevitably turn those weapons on each other. The galaxy is safer because they're gone. That was when my hand went up, thought it was in the back corner, near the emergency exit. Virith almost dismissed it. Questions were for after the lecture, but something about the stillness of the figure made her pause. Yes, she said, already regretting acknowledging the interruption. The figure stood, human, male, dark skin, close-cropped hair, wearing the gray uniform of the Coalition's intern exchange program. Virith remembered accepting his application, Arcus Webb. Recent graduate from some Earth institution, decent credentials. Unremarkable, Dr. Verith, Marcus said, his voice carrying surprising clarity. The species you're describing. You said they're extinct? The records indicate they're not extinct. The lecture hall went absolutely silent. Verith felt her secondary heart skip. Excuse me. The species you described. Bipedal, tool users, pack hunters who killed for recreation. Marcus stepped into the aisle. That's humanity. We're still here. A Delphinian student made a choking sound. That's not funny. I'm not joking. Marcus looked around the amphitheater. Everything the professor described, hunting for sport, recreational violence. Coordinated pack behavior that's documented human history. Impossible, Vera said. But her hands were already moving across the display, pulling up files. The coalition would never integrate A. They almost didn't. Marcus walked down the steps toward the podium. Pull up system J772, old designation. Check the xenological surveys from 2 millennia ago. Verath's fingers move faster now, searching archived databases. System J772. Third planet. Yellow star. She found a single line buried in preliminary survey notes. Recommendation: indefinite quarantine. Dominant species exhibits apex predator behavior despite complete absence of natural threats. Intelligence origin unclear. Potential hazard classification. Extreme. Verith stared at the screen. Then at Marcus. Then back at the screen. The planet was called Earth, Marcus continued calmly. The Coalition discovered us in the early 22nd century. They spent 50 years debating whether to make contact or sterilize the planet. They chose contact, but we were forbidden from leaving our solar system for 300 years. Why? A student breathed. Because every time humans were isolated, we got more violent. Our entire history is warfare punctuated by brief periods of preparation for more warfare. The Coalition decided that integration might civilize us faster than isolation. A Thorian stood abruptly. You're saying your people are the predator species? The ones that hunted for pleasure? We invented sport hunting, Marcus confirmed. We also invented philosophy, art, music, medicine. We're complicated. The amphitheater erupted. Students shouted questions, accusations, demands for proof. Verith stood frozen, watching her life's work crumble. The predator paradox, the foundational principle of evolutionary xenobiology, was wrong. Predators could become spacefaring. They were here. Marcus waited patiently as chaos swirled around him. When the noise finally subsided, he looked directly at Verith. Would you like me to explain how humanity survived? He asked quietly. Or would you prefer to continue believing we didn't? He quarantined FILESD. Verath's hands trembled as she gripped the podium. In 60 years of teaching, she had never lost control of a classroom. Students were still shouting, some standing, others frantically searching databases on their personal devices. A Morphean in the third row appeared to be hyperventilating. Silence, Verith commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos with practiced authority. The room obeyed, though the tension remained thick enough to taste. She looked at Marcus Webb, the human who had just shattered the foundations of xenobiological theory. Explain, now. Marcus nodded and approached the display controls. May I? Verith stepped aside, uncertain whether she was witnessing academic revolution or elaborate deception. Marcus pulled up a star chart showing Earth's location relative to Coalition space. First contact occurred in 2183, Marcus began. A Coalition research vessel detected our radio transmissions and traced them back to Earth. They sent observation drones. What they found terrified them. He pulled up archive footage grainy. Clearly ancient, showing sprawling cities. Vehicles moving in coordinated streams. Aircraft crossing skies. A species that had reached industrial civilization without prey psychology, Marcus continued. We didn't build cities to hide from predators. We built them to organize conquest. We didn't develop agriculture to ensure food security against lean seasons caused by predator culling. We developed it to support population growth for territorial expansion. A Delphinian student raised a shaking tentacle. But surely you had natural predators? All planets have predator species. We did. Marcus entered new search parameters. Images appeared: lions, tigers, bears, crocodiles, sharks. Each one a masterpiece of evolutionary killing efficiency. We coexisted with them for hundreds of thousands of years. Then we drove most of them to near extinction. Self-defense? Someone asked hopefully. Sometimes. Other times, we just wanted their territory. Or their skins for decoration. Or because they competed with us for prey animals we wanted to hunt ourselves. Marcus's expression remained neutral, clinical. We didn't fear apex predators. We competed with them. And we won. Vareth forced herself to speak. The records mentioned hunting for pleasure. Prove that claim, gladly. Marcus pulled up historical documents. Images of humans in various terrains holding weapons beside dead animals. Sport hunting? Trophy hunting. We pursued dangerous animals with no intention of consuming them. We mounted their heads on walls. We turned killing into recreation, developed ethical frameworks to debate its morality, created entire industries around it. A crystalline scholar shimmered with revulsion. Why? Challenge. Status. Tradition. Boredom. Marcus shrugged. Humans are pursuit predators. We evolved to chase prey over long distances until they collapsed from exhaustion. When survival no longer required hunting, some of us couldn't stop. The instinct remained even when the necessity vanished. That's psychologically aberrant, Arthurian declared. By your standards, yes. By ours, it's controversial but not abnormal. Marcus advanced the display again. But here's what really concerned the coalition. We didn't just hunt animals. New images appeared. Fortifications, armies, weapons, ranging from primitive spears to devastating explosives. Humans have been in a state of organized warfare for our entire recorded history, Marcus explained. Over 15,000 documented conflicts in the past 5,000 years alone. We developed metallurgy primarily to make better weapons. We invented chemistry partly to create more efficient explosives. We split the atom and immediately weaponized it. Vareth felt her secondary lungs constricting. You're describing a species that should have destroyed itself. We nearly did. Multiple times. Marcus pulled up another file. 20th century. We invented weapons capable of ending multicellular life on our planet. 2 separate factions accumulated enough firepower to sterilize Earth. We called it mutually assured destruction and treated it as a diplomatic strategy. Madness. Someone whispered. Effective madness. Marcus corrected. We didn't use those weapons in total war because we understood the consequences. That's when the coalition made their decision. He pulled up a document, the Earth Integration Treaty, dated 2191. They gave us a choice. Submit to quarantine while they studied us. Accept integration under strict monitoring or face preemptive neutralization. Humanity chose integration. Under what terms? Vareth asked, dreading the answer. Total transparency. Population monitoring. Technology restrictions. Enforced demilitarization of our outer colonies. Coalition observers embedded in every human government. Psychological evaluation programs for anyone seeking off-world travel. Marcus met her eyes. We became the most scrutinized species in coalition history. A Morphean student spoke up, voice quavering. And they let you leave Earth? Come to institutions like this. Why? Because isolation made us worse. Marcus's tone softened slightly. Every time human populations were cut off from each other, we became more tribal, more violent, more paranoid. The coalition psychologists theorized that exposure to other species might accelerate our social evolution. Teach us to see intelligence as something beyond us versus them. A gamble, Vareth said. A calculated risk. The alternative was watching us develop interstellar capability on our own and hoping we'd somehow become peaceful without external influence. The coalition decided integration was safer than abandonment. Marcus pulled up statistical data. 300 years later, humanity has the lowest violent crime rate in our recorded history. We've contributed to coalition medical advances, disaster response protocols, engineering solutions. We're trying to be better than our evolutionary programming. Trying? A Delphinian repeated. Not succeeding? Evolution takes time. We're working against 4 million years of predator instincts. But we're working. Marcus paused. The coalition monitors us because we're dangerous. But they also monitor us because we're succeeding. Slowly, imperfectly, but measurably. Vareth studied the human before her. Calm, articulate, seemingly comfortable, discussing his species' capacity for violence. Why are you here, Marcus Webb? She asked quietly. Why attend a lecture about predator species when you knew it would lead to this? Because someone needed to correct the record, Marcus replied. You teach that intelligence only emerges from prey species. That's wrong. Intelligence emerges from necessity. For prey, the necessity is escape. For humans, the necessity was dominance. Different pressure, same result. He gestured at the assembled students. If you continue teaching that predators can't become spacefaring, you'll miss warning signs in other species. You'll fail to understand half the potential paths to intelligence. And you'll never understand humanity, which means you'll never know if we're truly integrating or just learning to hide what we are. The lecture hall was absolutely silent. Vareth looked at her lecture notes, at the predator paradox she'd spent decades refining. She thought about every paper she'd published, every student she'd taught, every assumption she'd built her career upon. I need to rewrite everything, she said finally. Yes, Marcus agreed. But you'll write something better? Something true. As students began filing out, arguing in dozens of languages about the implications, Vareth stood at the podium beside the human intern. She had one final question. Are we safe, Marcus? From humanity? He considered that carefully. Ask me in 1,000 years, he said. We're still figuring that out ourselves. Outside, the campus network was already spreading footage of the lecture across coalition space. Within hours, it would reach every academic institution in known space. The predator paradox was dead. Something new, something more complicated and more honest was being born and on a planet called Earth. 8 billion humans continued their daily struggle, trying to become something better than evolution had designed them to be.